Hello, everybody. It's Wow Ergonomics. It's Friday at midday, and it's not coming home. It's not coming home. It's not coming. It doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? But
No,
it's the truth. It's
we
not coming
did.
home.
What did we say last? We put our predictions in last week. I think did we go for two? I went for 2-1 England. Did you go 2-1 England?
I went 2-1 England. We were nearly right. We
We
just the
were.
wrong way round.
Yeah.
There
Oh
we are.
well.
I should have
I
gone
think by
that
the
to
time
the.
by the time we've got to Friday, the pain sort of dissipated, hasn't it? It was 5 days ago. I think Sunday night, everyone was narked, and probably the same on Monday. But I think by Tuesday, everyone sort of got over it, and we're used to the disappointment and focused on other things now.
Well, interesting. Here's the interesting thing.
Okay.
So I had a meeting with a friend of the show who shall remain nameless, so that
Okay.
that because.
Right.
But anyway, I had a meeting with a friend of this show
Mm.
the following day, and to be fair, he went into work right the following day, but apparently, people at his work still had time off the following day,
Really?
despite because it had been agreed that people could get in later
Right.
on the basis that there may have been celebrations. So I wonder. I mean, I wonder how many other businesses there were
Mm.
like that, where people had already pre-agreed time off
Mm.
the following day. I know some schools did, which
They did. They did.
wow. I
I mean, the thing I found quite interesting was this sort of call for a bank holiday or whatever if England had won it. Now, let's just sort of run it through, and you think about, we're talking about an economy that's sluggish and all that sort of thing. When would this have taken place? How would it have taken place? At short notice, how much impact would that have had on other industries? Because people would have had events booked, meetings booked, customer visits booked, other things going on. I'd love to know what the sort of this sort of rush to have this bank holiday, how would it actually have worked? Because to me, any benefit you'd have gained, because there is obviously an uptick in the economy on a bank holiday, but surely on something like this, it would have been more than negated by all the hassle and inconvenience for prearranged plans, you would think.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this as someone that is self-employed.
Yeah.
There's all of those people out there in the country who
Mm.
may be employed by someone who might think that an extra bank holiday is an absolutely marvelous thing. But I can tell you that pretty much every single self-employed person in the country
Yeah.
thinks that every bank holiday, let alone an extra one, is an absolute nightmare and a waste of
Yeah.
time. So there you go. I'm just
Sorted.
I'm now going to be hated by anybody that loves their bank holiday. But you've got to, and actually you do see it on LinkedIn. If
Mm.
other some of you people that watch this may not be on the old LinkedIn, but you do see it on LinkedIn that actually people that are in my situation, self-employed, whatever,
Mm.
consultants, etc. We find going on holiday hard enough,
Yeah.
let alone enforced holidays on top of everything else. We just actually don't need it in the economy. We don't need it.
So here's a question, Graham, because that's an interesting one, because we've had a lot of people on this show who are similar to yourself, self-employed, running their own business, even if it's one or two people. What does it look like for you when you go on holiday? It's not like maybe for me where someone in the office can pick it up. How I'm interested for you to sort of share with us, what does it look like when you need to go on holiday? How do you have to build everything? Who covers? Do you still have to do an element of work every day? Because this is something we don't always appreciate is business owners versus employees as to what the impact on their holidays actually is.
Well, I can actually tell you this because
Mm.
it's about to change for me.
Right. Okay.
Because previously on ER, previously I always love those voiceovers where they do the
Yeah. Yeah.
previously at the beginning of things, and then you have to sit through like 10 minutes of what you watched last time, and it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so thank goodness for TV where you can skip it because you can get straight back to the right point.
Fast forward.
It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, but no, previously coming up to holidays, I have always had to work longer hours as a preliminary to going on holiday to bank up work so that I can service the client over the holiday period, or maybe not charge clients over the holiday, so lose money over the
Yeah.
holiday period. For the first time coming up soon, in agreement with the missus, I've actually said, because she wanted an extra holiday this year,
Okay.
which I do not normally agree to, right? I've actually said that I will go, but on the basis that I work. So,
Okay. What, like
so
an hour a day, or your
no,
normal working day?
no. So we will be going off to Malta. Very nice too,
Oh,
to
lovely.
catch a little bit of sun. And I envisage that we'll probably get up fairly early in the morning because it will be light, etc. in the morning. Probably go off, have breakfast, maybe walk down to the beach and whatever, and then I shall be coming back by about 11 o'clock, and I'll probably work from 11 till 3, something like that, every day, and then we'll do the evening.
Because I think it's really important. It's something maybe that people like myself who are in employment don't sort of fully appreciate. You often hear about the sacrifices that people as a small business owner have to make, but when you start putting it that way, it's very difficult to actually take a full day off, isn't it?
It's impossible to take a full day off, almost.
Yeah, almost.
Well, actually, no. I say that. I actually find if I take days off, that's easier, because it's easier to
Yeah,
structure in a day than it is to structure in a week, and
yeah.
certainly not 2 weeks. This concept that, when I hear like people go, "Oh yeah, I'm taking 3 weeks off work," you go like, do you know what? I've never, even when I worked for people, because I come from a sort of, I started my first business when when I was 11.
Mm,
I have never taken 3 weeks off work.
no,
I've never taken 2 weeks off work. Never, ever. I've never
no.
had 2 weeks holiday in a row. Never.
Now,
The concept would kill me to
yeah.
do that. I
Now I
don't get
hadn't
it.
done that for a long time. I'm having 2 weeks off this year. Now I haven't done that for a long time. Although not a business owner, I am sort of responsible for what I look after, and I've always preferred more frequent, sort of shorter breaks. But actually, this year it's a 2 week break. So let's see what I come back to.
But will you? Here's the great
Mm,
question: will you take 2 weeks completely off? Because this is the thing for me,
mm,
as somebody that's intrinsically part of the lives of my customers. It's
yeah,
not just about work; it's about being intrinsically part of their lives and their businesses, etc. Right? There is no way I can completely switch off from that.
no,
Right? So, and that's why for me, and this is something that I had to discuss with my wife. I said, look, you might think that actually I can go away and just switch off and just, but actually for me, it isn't relaxing,
no.
because I will be thinking about that. So it's actually more relaxing for me
Mm.
if I can go and I can do my check-in and I can do some work and whatever else. And then I go, right, do you know what? I've done enough for today, and now I can go and relax. That's more relaxing.
So almost taking a little part of every day and doing something rather than that complete shut off, because you can keep on top of it. You might be checking every 3 or 4 hours. You can keep on top of it, and therefore you feel more relaxed because actually it's getting done, or you're checking it, not just leaving it and going, I'll be back in a week.
Yeah, and I actually think this is the fault of. I think this goes deeper, right? Because I
Okay.
actually think this is the fault of norms that we've built up in society around lots of things.
Mm,
A lot of norms that perhaps in the future may need looking into and changing, right? Because don't know that they necessarily work within the framework of modern life anymore, right? So it's almost like the fact that this concept that we go to work and then we have a holiday and it looks like this, or that's the day off, and or you work this many days a week, and then and businesses are beginning to look at it. This is the same thing as businesses beginning to look at maybe a 4-day working week, right? The difficult thing is, I don't think there's a right and wrong for a whole company necessarily.
Yeah.
It may be more around individual people, and that flexibility may need to be around individuals, not a whole group. And that makes management really difficult.
Yeah.
But I think we need to stop thinking that the way we've always done it is right. Okay. And especially now with what we know about neurodiversity, etc. I think for a lot of people out there who are neurodiverse, for example, they can't just switch their brain off and go, right, I'm going to go and, I'm going to decompartmentalize that into that and that and that. And so actually, if someone finds it better to go, do you know what, I'm going to start at 6 o'clock in the morning, work till then have this part of the day doing this, and actually I can, and then I might work an hour again in the evening, or I don't want to take a full break on holiday, but I want odd days off here and there. We need to start understanding that people might want to do that,
because there will be a number of people out there who will. There's probably lots of people in organizations who are reluctant to take any holiday because of that, but there'll be people as well who just will not. The idea of a traditional holiday is to relax, recharge your batteries, etc. There will be people out there who will be on their holiday who cannot relax, who cannot recharge their batteries because of that is fear the right word? Concern or fear about what's going on in their absence and what are they going to come back to. So that
it's not.
that's
Well,
a big
and
thing.
I'm going to say to you, it's not even fear. It's not even
No, I should
necessarily
say
fear.
fear's too strong. It's just,
It might be fear. It might come from a place of fear, but it
yes,
might also come from. It might actually just come from a place of interest. It might just come
yeah,
from a place of energy, right? I just, if you're emotionally put it this way, if you're emotionally invested in something that you've been a part of,
yeah,
for months on end or whatever, to think that you can then go off on holiday and just put that to the back of your mind when that is your baby, that's been something you've been a part of, a team that are taking, we talk about the England boys, right? It's like saying, right, to Gareth Southgate, okay, just before the Euro final, right? Imagine if he'd been like leading up to that, and it was like, well, actually, Gareth, you've got holiday booked that day, so
yeah,
forget, you can't be at the finals. You need to go off and have your holiday in Germany. He'd be like, don't be
what?
daft,
Yeah,
don't be daft.
yeah,
I've got to be there, right? And it's no different actually for a lot of people involved in business. If you've been really involved in something and you've put your heart and soul into it and whatever, to then go, oh, we're putting that pitch in next week. You'll be on holiday, but don't worry about it. We've got it.
yeah, we've got it sorted.
You might
No,
have it sorted, but you want to know, don't you?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You're not going to be.
So what will this look like then going forward? Because traditionally we think of holidays as I'm either in or I'm out or it's a half day. This thing we're talking about here with that sort of dipping in and dipping out, what does that look like going forward? How does that get managed? How does HR look at that and to say, well, hang on a second, well, I did 2 hours, so on that day, do you know what I mean? It's almost been very black and white. You're either in or you're out. But this, we're talking about some sort of, we're going back to that word hybrid, aren't we? That hybrid sort of on, off, in, holiday, etc. I wonder how that will sort of pan out and how that would be managed going forward.
Well,
Do people have hours off as opposed to days? And if you work 2 hours of your day's holiday, you get 2 back, or how would it be done?
it's complex, and it is not simple. And personally, I think it comes down to communication, and I believe from a leadership point of view, it comes back down to communication with all stakeholders, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think one of the things I've always said about this is one of the stakeholders that sometimes companies forget about right at the beginning of these things is customers, right? Yeah. Ask the customer first, right? Because they're the ones that are paying the money into your business, right?
Yeah.
What do your customers want, right? Your customers may not want or need Keith to be there 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right? Or they might need someone to be there 5 days a week. Or what they might tell you is what they need is access to something where they can get the answers 7 days a week or whatever, but that doesn't need to be a person. So I think you have to start with your customers. You have to ask your customer, what is it they need? Right?
And work backwards from that.
And
Almost
work
the customer
backwards.
starts and come back and go,
work
this is
backward,
how it looks.
Work backwards from that, because if your customer needs this and they need access to it 7 days a week or whatever, and one of those things is like, customer service or whatever, then in terms of then creating that role, given the fact that you need to be offer flexibility to employees, etc., then you need to, as you shape those roles that then provide the service to the customer, you need to think about the fact that you may need to job share, or you may need to have one team on here and one team on there, and what happens if someone wants to take breaks or whatever. So you need to think it back from what the customer wants in the first place. But don't make assumptions, right? No. And also do not assume that one size fits all, that actually, because it kind of suits somebody in the organization, that they want people in the office and they want them there, between the hours of this and that and the other, that's going to suit everybody. So it's a big piece of work, I think, for all organizations. And I actually don't think that a lot of organizations are doing the piece of work properly. I think what they're doing is they're guessing, they're trying things, then mistakes are happening, then they're trying to retrofit solutions, and that's where it all goes completely Python.
Do you think people look at it and go, this is what we need to do, and when they start really getting into it, it's like, this is a minefield, and then go, we'll put that to one side, that is just too complicated, we don't have the resource or the capacity to do that? But it needs done. But the more we've sort of got into it, you realize this, you start thinking about a business that's got 10 people or 50 or 250 or 1,050. The big, businesses with 10,050 people. As you start thinking about it and extrapolating those numbers, the more complicated it becomes, and therefore do organizations just go, it's just too complicated, we'll go back to the old school way of, you get X number of days off, they're in or you're out.
Yeah. I think that happens. I do think that happens, and maybe it explains, and we're just about to talk about it as well. You're gonna give some figures for people that are inactive, which I want to talk about that whole word inactive, because I think that's a lot of rubbish. But it maybe this is why we've seen so many people go self-employed,
Mm.
because
Yeah.
it may be the only answer for a lot of people wanting to do what they want to do
Mm.
and give value within the structure of an organization, is for them to create the right boundaries for themselves. They've had to go self-employed now,
Yeah.
and maybe that's what we will see in the future, because maybe for a lot of organizations, the growth will come from utilizing self-employed consultancies as
Yeah.
opposed to having everybody in-house, because then
Absolutely.
because then you pay for a service. How that service gets delivered to you, it's not
Yeah.
your worry, it's their worry.
Mm. So
Yeah,
they don't have to worry about what you're doing. You do it yourself because because you increase the number of self-employed people, and they dictate what they're gonna they do, and therefore an organisation hasn't got to worry about all these different things. They just let
yeah,
people sort it out themselves. Mm.
yeah. That's my
Wow.
theory. There's my
Yeah. Yeah.
theory, and I don't think I'm far wrong in that.
No. No.
I think one of the reasons we've seen a mass exodus from being employed in companies to self-employment within the sort of COVID period is partly because people stopped and thought, hang on, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Right? I'm doing this when actually because suddenly we all had time, and then, or lots of people had time, and then people thought, well, actually, I quite like having control of my time. So actually, why don't I control my time? And then,
Mm.
but also, maybe it was an awareness, even organisationally as well, that we don't actually have control over this.
Yeah.
Going forward, we don't have control over this anymore, and therefore, how can we get better control over this? Actually, we get better control over it if we don't actually employ people. If we employ key staff who are happy doing things within the confines of a working day, and actually maybe we can offer more flexibility to, and then
Mm.
everything else we're going to outsource it.
Mm. Yeah. And those people who are being outsourced may prefer it because they can then do build their working day and week and life around what they want it to look like.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Well, I see. I've just solved the whole
All sorted.
problem. It's all sorted, just like that.
Yeah. Done.
Just
Done.
so talk to me about these people, this group of people,
Yeah,
then that
I
are.
was just there was an article that came out yesterday, Thursday, on the again. I love looking at the BBC Business sort of website section, picking up things, and I love a few statistics. And there was a few that it was talking about inflation and pay rises and all that, and pay how it's rising above inflation. But I sort of read a little bit further down, and a couple of things that really stuck out to me. There were 889,000, so almost a million job vacancies between April and June.
Wow,
So let's say
wow,
900,000 job vacancies.
wow.
Oh, flipping, that's a lot. Still,
Yeah.
that is,
Is there any?
you know,
Did it give any kind of granulation in terms of where those were sector wise, or
retail and hospitality.
mainly?
Yeah, led by
Wow,
retail and hospitality. They were the
wow,
two
wow,
areas.
wow. Okay.
Now, when you get into it, then you start reading down. It's like, oh, that's a big number. The rate of people considered economically inactive, right, which they define as those aged between 16 to 64, not in work or looking for a job. So people not in work
Yeah.
and not looking for a job, 22%,
Oh,
which equates to,
not in work, and not looking for a job.
correct. Sorry, let me say
Right.
it again. Not in work or looking for a job.
Or looking for a job. Right.
Yeah. So they're not doing either.
Yeah.
9.4 million people,
Really?
800,000 higher than before the coronavirus pandemic. So now, of course, there'll be explanations for a number of those people. I mean, my first, I mean, it doesn't get. There's questions that come out from me that really sort of need sort of a bit more definition. But those
Yeah.
are big numbers. Those are big.
Massive.
So somewhere out there's 900,000 jobs that need filling, vacancies that need filling,
Yep.
but we've got 10 times as many people deemed economically inactive.
Yep.
That's that, 22%. I guess that's of the workforce. So what we're saying is that 1 in 5 people who could be working aren't working and aren't
Yep.
looking for a job.
Okay. Well, there's an immediate question that's going to get asked there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is what makes those people say that they don't need the job when the job's available, right? So, I mean, it's the age-old question that is always going to be asked, which is if you're better off outside of employment than in
Yeah.
employment, then
You stay out.
you'll stay out. I was actually having this conversation with my wife this morning because she's involved in the dental industry, and there's I haven't read it fully, but there's a thing that the Labour Party, the new government, have put out about trying to encourage more dentists back into NHS contracts.
Yes.
Right. But the conversation was around, was the figure that was being bandied about there as an incentive, was that seriously going to entice any dentist to look at an NHS contract when, let's face it, they could probably earn 5 times that amount in private practice? I mean, the point is, where are the incentives? Because if there's no incentive for somebody to work, why are they going to choose to work?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I personally, I find it strange, right? And I find it strange because for one, as I say, I mean, I started work at a really young age. I enjoy, this is going to sound really weird, folks, but I enjoy work. I enjoy the challenge of it, right? I enjoy the challenge of getting up in the morning, having a focus, wanting to make things happen, etc., etc., and that is motivating as on a human level beyond the money, right? The money actually comes from being motivated because you're invested, right?
Yeah.
So I find it kind of odd if anyone's like not invested in anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't
why aren't
imagine.
they invested? What's they haven't found something that's grabbed them, have they? And
No.
thought, that's what I really want to do, which is what you've got and a lot of people have got, but clearly we're missing out on a big, huge number of people who haven't got that desire for whatever reason.
Yeah. Now, is it then that we need to? Is there? I wonder whether there's a massive educational piece here. Again, because education, it normally comes back down to education.
Yeah.
I wonder whether we focus so much on job fill, and not what you get out of a job.
Yeah.
Right? Are we not selling the opportunity properly, and are we not? And maybe actually the opportunity isn't selling itself properly because the opportunity isn't offering everything that it could be. So is it that, do we need some of the organisations that are involved in apprentice schemes or training schemes or whatever to get more involved in the whole situation and go, right, okay, so if we've got a shortfall at the moment in terms of retail staff, for example, can we make sure that we guarantee that if I decide tomorrow I'm going to get up from doing nothing or playing football in the garden all day long or whatever it is that these people do, and I'm going to go and I'm going to invest some of my time in a retail career or whatever, that I will get trained effectively in these kind of skills, which are not just skills that the company needs me to have for that job, like this, here's how to operate this particular till, but real transferable skills that if I then find that I've got,
The
excuse
dog
me,
in the background.
if I then find I've got a dog in the background, that I can take him for a walk. But if I then find that there's something else that interests me further down the line, I've got transferable skills that these skills will allow me to take into that.
I think what would be really good at, and this is, I'm almost thinking ahead here, Graham, of a guest for us in the future. But some of these statistics come out, and I've sort of read through them, and we're asking questions and kicking things around between us. It'd be really interesting to get someone on who can sort of get into the granular parts, because these numbers are great, but actually to me they create, like you've just done there, they create more questions than answers. We a lot of us who've got those, when you hear statistics, you've got the thirst to know more, haven't you? What's behind it? What makes up it? We were saying before, what's this economically inactive mean? Does that mean someone physically can't work? Does it mean they don't want to work? And you want to sort of know more. But what I found really interesting, again, reading down this article, just to sort of, trying to get a frame for it all, there was something at the bottom that I thought was quite interesting. And what they were saying is the reliability of this data is actually got a big question mark against it. And they're saying that's because they're getting less people responding to these surveys. So that, they're all based on averages, aren't they? Let's be honest, they're not going and interviewing 50 million people in the UK to produce this. It's going to be based on a section of people, and it's then going to be extrapolated out. But it was interesting, they were saying they're getting less responses. So the question that comes back is, how reliable is that data?
Right. I've also got another question for you, which
Okay.
is, how many people out there, maybe because we now live in digital times, how many of those people may be making a living in a way that we haven't quantified?
Yeah.
Just putting it out there.
Exactly.
How many of those people may be buying and selling goods on various internet sites,
Platforms, yeah,
that might exist, all
yeah,
right, without that necessarily being registered or quantified properly, etc. So there may be retail going on without retail going on, if you know what I mean.
yeah.
How many of those people out there may be making a living, running a YouTube channel, and it's
Yeah.
just not,
It's not picked up in the stats.
it's not picked up in the stats or whatever. I'm just saying there may be a whole
Yeah.
other ether of kind of digital
Traders.
generation traders, or activity going on. And it may even be in the arts and things like that. You may have people that are, in a band, and they're going out, they're playing pub gigs, they're getting paid cash, they're, whatever, and
Yeah.
they might be living from hand to mouth, but they're actually they are putting money or taking money and whatever, moving money around in the economy, but you don't necessarily know that they're doing that.
No. Who was it who said statistics, and damn
Lies.
statistics or something, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
you sort of get into these numbers, and this is, we've sort of just started to scratch the surface on it really, but it's just when you see things like that and you just sort of think those are big numbers, and to me it intrigues me. I want to know more. Like you've said, we've just thrown up a few different ideas from this sort of brief conversation. It'd be great to get someone on, I think, who can really get us into that and make us understand it a bit more, because you sort of see headlines, but you think, I want to know more about that. I want to know, what does that mean? How can we have 900,000 jobs and 9 million people? How can we not just connect them and get them all working and get the property? Do you know what I mean? I always find things like that quite sort of fascinating, and it's not as simplistic as get those 9 million people to apply for those 900,000 jobs and get rid of vacancies. It's just not that simple, but you almost feel it should be, but it just can't be, can it?
No, it can't be.
No.
Anyway, that's a great conversation. We're keeping the conversation short at the moment. We're going to keep the podcast throughout the summer a little bit shorter, just because you're probably on the beach somewhere,
Yeah.
not working, enjoying lying in the sun, etc. If you're self-employed, and of course you're listening to this, you're multitasking at this moment. You're checking your emails. You're facilitating great deals, and you're doing all of that whilst lying on the beach in the sun, looking after the kids and changing nappies, all at the same time, because you're fabulous, and you can just do that. Oh, wow. I look forward to the next one. That was brilliant. I think actually that's what we should perhaps do over this next little series, is just bring a stat, and we're talking around a stat, which I think is really kick it around. Probably better than the England football team. But there we go.
We start as we finish, talking about the football.
Yeah, our possession over the last 35 minutes was fantastic.
Absolutely.
There we go. Thanks, Stephen. That was a great conversation.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
We'll be back again next week with more of the same. I hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. If you have, please do enter into the conversation on the various channels, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.